What's up, my friends? Welcome to Pantry Prep, and today we're here to talk about jump starters, specifically lithium powered jump starters. They came out on the market a while back, but they are just so compact. They hold their charge for a long time. Great thing just keeping your vehicle to keep yourself from ever getting stranded. So I got this Winplus one at Costco probably 5 or 6 years ago at this point, and I believe it said that it was rated for V6s and 4 cylinders. So I figured it would be a great fit for my 4Runner because it's an older vehicle. Every once in a while I leave a light on, especially while camping, and there's all sorts of situations where I could use a little extra power and there's nobody else around to give me a jump start or anything like that. So I figured a jump starter like this would solve all my problems. But I ran into a dilemma. The very first time I needed it, I hooked it up like so, just like the instructions say. Connect this side into the unit first, connect the negative terminal, connect the positive terminal, press the on button. Got a green light on showing that everything's connected properly. But when I go to actually start the engine, I get this beeping noise telling me something's wrong. Either it didn't have enough power or what. Got this red light. It actually has this all written down here telling you what that means. So it's saying beeping disconnect. Try disconnecting. Let's power this off so it quits making that terrible noise. Let's give it another try. Got both of our ends properly connected. Not enough power. Still getting the same error message saying to disconnect. Try again. Green light, good to go. Go to turn the key. Sounds like we've got some power. Not nearly enough to actually turn the engine. I'm just getting this terrible beep again. And then after a few attempts, the battery's too low to keep trying. And then you're completely stranded. So after spending 60 bucks on this thing and realizing it's not strong enough to start any of my engines, I realized I need to get something a whole lot stronger. And some of these newer ones on the market have even more capability than just these jump starters do. Both of these models also have air compressors built into them. So most situations that I'd be stuck on the side of the road, one of these can deal with, whether it's a flat tire or a dead battery. So these are two models that I found highly rated. This Cat one is available at Costco, pretty good deal. I think it's around 130 bucks. And then the VTOMAN got off Amazon and about the same price point, $130. But the VTOMAN, I had seen another YouTuber review and it did incredibly well. So I wanted to see how well the best one from Amazon rated against Costco's offering. So let's put them to the test, see if these are able to start both the V6 and the 4Runner, as well as the V8 and the Sequoia. Now let's start with the Cat here. To turn it on, we just hit this battery button, and you can see on the display it tells me how many volts we have and how full the battery is. Now this has an AC port as well on it. When you hit this button here, now it sends 200 watts of power to this AC plug-in that you could run something real small off of. Nothing that takes too much power. We have controls up here for the air. We can set the PSI to whatever we want it to be and then set it and forget it. It'll go ahead and pump up the tire to whatever the preset PSI is. It also has a light on the top. You can hit this LED button, turn on these lights here. So if I need to jump start the vehicle late at night or early in the morning when I don't have much light, I can set this in a direction where these lights can be showing me the terminals, and it's actually on the same side of the box as our cables. So works out great. Now the battery itself doesn't come with a carrying case, but there is this here that holds all the cables that come with it. Comes with high quality metal clips. I've got a green light on the cable. Looks like we're ready to start. Go in the vehicle. Let's see if this has enough power to start a V6. Not enough. Looks like I need to turn it back on for whatever reason. Go back inside the vehicle. Strange. Let's work on our connection. don't have good connections, all the power in the world won't start the vehicle. Got good connections, everything looks ready to go. Still not enough power. Now, to be fair, I did drain this battery down as much as possible. I put the voltmeter on it and it's reading under 2 volts. Even though it's a fairly new battery, that is a pretty low voltage. So let's see if the VTOMAN is able to save the day. Now, the VTOMAN comes in a nice carrying case that holds both the battery as well as all the cables. Here is the air line that it comes with, and here are the jump cables. Now, these aren't quite as beastie as the Cat ones. These have plastic handles instead of metal, but as long as they'll start the engine, that's all that really matters. So let's get these connected. Positive to positive, negative to negative. Now, a few other features of the VTOMAN. This has a light on the top here that does a few different things. Not only will it light the area, but you can use it as a hazard light. Set this out on the road, let people know that you're stuck. Now, in this unit, you can also set the PSI that you want it to inflate to, and actually you can just cycle through different types of vehicles, whether you want it at 36 PSI for a vehicle, 44 for a bicycle, or 7 for a basketball. And you can adjust those up and down from here, but just has those presets saved, so you don't have to push this up 30 times when you go from pumping up a basketball to pumping up your tire. But what's most important, let's make sure it can jump start the car. I'm seeing a green light on here. Looks like we're all good to go. There is this boost button. Not quite sure what that does, but let's not press for now. Let's see if just this connection is enough to start the car. No power at all. Well, let's see what this boost button does. Ooh, sounds like everything's alive now. Easy. Now, I have the alternator disconnected on the vehicle right now. You can see down here, there's a power cable that's disconnected. So the vehicle is running solely off of the VTOMAN at the moment. It's not using any recharging from the vehicle to keep it running like it typically does. So that is pretty impressive. We're gonna give the Cat another try. Got it all hooked up. Got a green light there. Power's on. Same result. Just get this strange clicking. Ooh. After giving it a little bit of time, it was able to start the engine. It was able to charge up the battery enough. Now, I have the alternator disconnected for this test. So the Cat doesn't have enough power to run the vehicle like the VTOMAN was able to, but after being connected for a little while, it was able to start it. So it still was able to save the day. Now, after starting it twice off this Cat, let's see how much battery life's left. Still giving me a full charge. It was reading 12.2, 12.4 earlier. Now it's reading 12, but still in its full battery. The VTOMAN, after its one jump start, is showing one less block on the battery. So it did discharge a little bit more than the Cat, it appears. At least as far as the battery indicators show. Alright, so on the 4Runner with the 3.4 liter V6, this VTOMAN had no problem cranking it over and even keeping it running for a little while. This Cat, on the other hand, took a few attempts to get it up and running, but it did eventually start the car. So now let's take it over to a larger vehicle, the Sequoia with a 5.7 liter V8, and see how both of these stack up on a bigger engine. We've got the Cat jump starter all connected. Now let's turn it on. So we got a full charge. It's at 12.4 volts. Got good connections on positive and negative, but I'm not seeing any lights on these jump cables. Has this indicator that tells you if everything's connected properly. Unplugged it, plugged it back in. Still not seeing anything from it. Turns out the issue is actually with my connections. After shaking this positive and negative cable, that green light turned on, showing me that we are ready to jump. So let's give this thing a whirl. Getting a similar blinking that we were seeing in the display of the other vehicle. It seemed like after having it connected and it blinking for a minute, it was able to start. So let's go for it. Was able to turn it over and start it, but not keep it running. Now, I do have the alternator connected on this vehicle, so there's no reason that should be happening. But let's give it another try. Got that battery light flashing, likely meaning that the battery doesn't have enough power in it to keep the vehicle running, and the jump box isn't providing that power either. So let's see if the VTOMAN is going to have the same issue. I'm getting the VTOMAN set up here. But one thing to be said about the design of this, being kind of a rectangle instead of that cube that the Cat is it sits much more stable inside the engine compartment than that big box. So since I got to connect these cables, run in the vehicle, start it, that shakes the vehicle, leaves me unsure of whether that box falling is going to mess up one of these connecting cables. But the VTOMAN sitting nice and flat there, I think that's a better design. We now have the VTOMAN all hooked up to the Sequoia. So let's hit this boost button. See if we can get this thing started. See, with the VTOMAN, the dash lights just turn on like normal. Starts like normal. Keeps running like normal. You can see my battery meter showing pretty healthy voltage there. All right, now that we've seen how well both of these models do at jump starting a vehicle, let's test their other functions and see how well they pump up a tire. I'm going to deflate this tire here on the 4Runner, and we'll put these to a race to see just how quickly they can refill this. Let's test out this Cat compressor first. Now, it has its airline neatly tucked into the side here. And get that out of there. Now we'll hit air, and then we can set the PSI that we want to pump up to. See, I have it set to 35 PSI. But it is currently at 3.2 PSI. Gives you a nice readout right there on the display. Now let's see how quickly we can get from 3.2 to 35 PSI. Well, it looks like the compressor took a break. I'm wondering why. Come to find out after reading the tag, it does automatically turn off on its own after 10 minutes to prevent overheating. So it's not necessarily that it was overheating, but just a safety measure to make sure it doesn't. All right, I think that's a long enough break. Let's hit air. Man, that last 1/10 of a PSI took a long time. So 14.5 minutes to pump up this tire from 3.5 PSI all the way to 35. Hopefully you're not in a rush when you come out and find your flat tire, but let's see how the VTOMAN compares. Now, it has an airline that is not attached to the unit, comes separate in the bag, but just screws onto the top here. Go ahead and get this airline connected. This one also, we just set the PSI to whatever we wanted to. I set it to 35. Showing a full battery even though we have a couple jump starts already on this thing. Now let's turn it on and see how long it takes. We're at 8.5 minutes to pump up the tire using the VTOMAN. So 6 minutes quicker than the Cat. That is a pretty impressive difference. Looking at the battery, it's still showing 3/4 of the way full, although just a moment ago it was showing halfway. Either way, they look like they're about at the same battery life after doing a couple of jump starts and pumping up a tire. So battery capacity, they're looking about the same. Although, let's look at the manufacturer details and see just how different these are as far as storage and output. So now after running our test, what do we think of these two units? Now, comparing the specs of these two, this has 2.5 times almost the amount of amps that this has. So it's able to send a lot more power to the vehicle, making it that much easier for the vehicle to start. That being said, both of these were able to start my 3.4 liter and my 5.7 liter that's a V8. So they both did the job. This one I imagine is going to be able to do the job longer, but this worked just fine. Now, given that they're the same price point, I think I'd prefer more power over less. And same with the compressor. This one will do 120 PSI. This one will do 160 PSI. The rate that this was able to inflate the tire on the 4Runner, almost twice as fast as this. So I think I would much rather have something that's stronger over this for the same price point. Also, when looking at the accessories that this comes with, this just has this little bag for the cables and things to go in, and then this doesn't have any compartment or bag for this to stay in. Now, it's durable enough that it doesn't really need to have any protective layer over the top of it, but it is nice when everything can stay nicely contained in one bag. I would say that the Cat's clips are a little bit more impressive than these plastic handle ones, but really the only thing that matters is these connections and the quality of the line on it. And those look the same between the two different clamps. So I don't think the plastic handle really makes any difference. Now, when looking through the owner's manuals and the care instructions on these, I'm seeing that the Cat wants to be stored between 41 degrees and 68 degrees, which isn't all that realistic if you hope to keep this in your vehicle for the time that you actually need it. Now, the VTOMAN, on the other hand, its manual says that it needs to be stored between -4 degrees and 140 degrees. Much more realistic to the environment that's going to be inside my vehicle in the peak of winter and the peak of summer. So I think that this is one that you can actually store on board, as opposed to this one that the battery might deteriorate based on those temperatures that the car frequently experiences. Now, one cool feature that's worth mentioning on the Cat that the VTOMAN doesn't have is this AC plug-in. Now, I have a solar generator, so being able to take AC power anywhere is something I already have the capability of doing. But this might be cool for trips to the park or camping trips where maybe you do need to be able to plug something in for a short period of time. Just don't count on this being able to put out very much power through that. It's going to trip at 200 watts, so that's not going to power too much. So all in all, given my use case that I want to be able to store it in a vehicle for a long period of time and be able to start very large engines, I think the VTOMAN is going to be my way to go. The Cat did a great job. It was still able to start the car, it was still able to inflate the tires, but it just doesn't have nearly as much power as the VTOMAN does. So this is the one that I'm going to go with for my own personal use. If you'd like a VTOMAN for yourself, we have a link down in the description. You can pick it up on Amazon. If you have an opinion on this or another jump starter that you think is a better option, let us know down in the comments. And if you enjoy this type of content, remember to hit like, subscribe to the channel. It really helps with the algorithm, helps spread our message, get more people prepared for whatever life throws at them. Until next time, this has been Jake with Pantry Prep.